Hey everybody, I'm going to be getting started here. Um, we're going to, Paul won't be joining us today. Reed is MIA, not sure where he is. Um, but we were, sorry, we're starting late today because we were getting pretty heavy to figure out main story out the door. So we just sent out our newsletter. Um, it's a pretty funny story that came from the Lost Freight Discord about basically two guys that met in the Discord. One of them was a real broker, and the other, I believe, is a broker, but he posed as a as a fake carrier, and they were basically um, screwing around with a double broker who they clearly knew was going to be double brokering the freight. Obviously, neither side had an intention of actually like moving the load, but we'll go over that story in a bit. Um, so, messaging a couple people to come around as well and join me because doing these things solo is a little bit a little bit boring. But nonetheless, we're gonna go over some of the things that took place this week that were, let's see, yeah, that were taking place. So, um, all right, where do we start? So let me share my screen here. Window. Here we go. All right, so we had a couple of different stories this week. We had a lot of freight broker, freight broker like con and freight broker con stories that we covered, or that we actually got sent. We only really ended up covering one, but obviously we had Valentine's Day. That was a pretty interesting newsletter from the perspective that we included a graph here, which I'm not sure if you can see, um, really around showing kind of like what the average consumer spending and what the average total spend on Valentine's Day gifts were. But overall, it seems like the average consumer spending on Valentine's Day was up. Not sure if that's going to like contribute to the population crisis we're in right now, but nonetheless, let's see what do we have here. Oh, I should probably log in as well. So you can only pretty much preview the newsletter on our webpage, and then when you just have to log in once you do. I don't know if you guys like that. Like, if you guys find that kind of annoying, let us know. But so far, it hasn't been a problem. Um, should be able to view it. Yeah, there we go. All right. We'll just go over the Valentine's Day. All right. So total spending on significant others actually reached an all-time high. It was about $14.2 billion just on Valentine's Day alone. And then let's see here. This survey came from about 8,300 adults, roughly speaking. But the majority of the spending was on candy, greeting cards, flowers, and evening out. I don't know what do you guys spend your Valentine's Day dollars on, but Yeah, Chase, I am holding down the fort. Paul, Paul will be returning to regular scheduling next week. Called Reed's phone 2 times. He might have died. Hopefully not. But messaging a couple people right now to see if they can join me. But actually, so in the coming weeks, we actually have really cool guests coming up, which we've posted about now. We got Bill Driegert coming from Flexport. He's the VP of North America. He came from Uber Freight, and he's currently focusing on building out like their truckload division, their kind of brokerage arm. Over the Yeah, I think the right way to refer to it is the over the road brokerage arm, but he'll obviously explain it. So that's I believe that's next week that's taking place. And then we have one more person that I know will be joining us, but who else is this? Um, and then I think Stephen Carnovale, which is a founder, or I believe he's a founder of a airship company. So we're gonna get a unique perspective on his. We're very bullish on airships here, so that's gonna be pretty cool. But okay, what else? Diamonds were pretty hot. I don't know how many of you are into diamonds, but around 6.4 billion is the spending forecast for that. Um, like evening out dinners, 4.9 billion. I would I would have guessed personally that evening outs might have been a little bit higher than like gifts, but then again, I'm also currently uh, not spending a Valentine's Day with anyone in particular, so I really probably have a rusty data on that. But what else? The average affection costs about $185. So it's about $8 above the 5-year average. And you could probably, I mean, if I had to guess, um, you could probably attribute this to the fact that there's like been some inflation taking place. So, um, what else? Yeah, this is pretty hard to do solo and invite people like at the same time. Um, so bear with me here. But um, this was pretty interesting too. There was a drug bust um, with a bunch of roses, and let's see, in a refrigerated trailer, 2004 Freightliner on February 6th. So there's about $9.5 million worth of hard narcotics found. I haven't personally heard of roses being used as a way to um, hide the drugs being smuggled. So that's, at least to me, that's pretty new. But I've heard of obviously like many different other ways. You've probably heard of similar ones too. But about 1,000 pounds of methamphetamine, and that's quite a lot. But let's see here. So yeah, lots in the drug world. Um, there's some talk about Phoenix becoming the next Ontario, but this I can't really say much to this because I'm not from the Phoenix area. I'm also not really into rail, or I don't really know that much about rail, but um, this had some traffic um, on Twitter from what I remember. It's here. Mm, one day from El Paso, San Diego borders. I actually don't really know too much what this means. It's kind of really 2 days for three OTR Dallas. Oh, I guess like via the rail. Well, that's pretty interesting. Why would it take 3 days? 3 days to get to Dallas. Phoenix is becoming a new Ontario, especially with a new rail line. One of the bullets is 2 days versus three OTR to Dallas. I don't know if anybody can like decrypt what this means, necessarily speaking. Um, but wouldn't make sense to me is that it takes 3 days to get from Phoenix to Dallas over the road, but 2 days via rail. That's how I'm interpreting it right now. Um, Not sure. Um, one day from the border. Okay, let's just skip this one. This doesn't really make much sense to me. Um, there was this highway ban. I think the highway in Pennsylvania. This I don't believe this is still the case, but Mother Trucker posted about this, and there was basically a complete ban on all major highways for all truck drivers. Um, at 3 a.m. I don't believe that this lasted for too long, but probably due to like all the snow, that that was that might have made sense. So I know that they do closures pretty often there. Um, Forgot where. It's been a minute since I drove a truck. Like I don't know at this point. I think 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, but I don't exactly remember. I know that like when I'd be coming from the East Coast, um, that the I-94, I believe it is, like the one that's going right along Lake Michigan out Chicago east to the East Coast, that they would close that down sometimes if there was a lot of heavy snow. And that was pretty annoying when that would happen. I only had that happen to me once, but mm, oh, this was pretty like when I saw this. So there's a Deerfield, Illinois, which is up north a little bit from where I am. Um, It's a pretty industrial area, at least if from my perspective, like when you drive through it, there's like a lot of corporate office corporate companies having offices in Deerfield. I don't exactly know if the zoning is exactly the same for warehouses or for corporate offices, but generally speaking, they're both businesses. But nonetheless, like Deerfield made this decision, which in my opinion is kind of wild, but um, Freightwaves reported on this early. So in Deerfield, they are no longer allowing the development of any warehouses, and they prohibit any logistics or fulfillment centers. I think a lot of it came from potentially um, local noise complaints, maybe about how loud things are with all the trucks moving around, and just how many trucks were just driving in the general area. But I found this to be pretty surprising because I don't know, like if to me it would seem like a logistics hub like this or fulfillment center would bring a decent amount of revenue um, for the city. I don't know. Well, I guess thinking about that, I don't exactly know per se how, except for maybe like the property taxes, but that would be about it. So, um, if anybody has any comments on like why a fulfillment center being built in a city is actually like helpful to the city. Besides, like, I guess you have a set of new jobs, especially if like the bigger the fulfillment center is. So that could be great. And then I know nearby in Chicago, one of the other Chicago suburbs of Rolling Meadows or Palatine, Amazon basically was building like a really big facility, and there was a there's kind of like a fight over like whether it would be in Rolling Meadows or Palatine, mainly because of the amount of like revenue that it would bring for the business or for the city itself. Um, so that was interesting. Trimble's revenue is up 30% year over year. Um, and they expect, see, Roman said something. So it's 1,065 miles from Phoenix, Arizona, to Dallas, Texas. Definitely 3 days from pickup to delivery for your average driver. On the other hand, drivers we have in Chicago, companies will do this in 2 days for sure. Yeah, because we produce a lot of strong solo surgeries in this city, beautiful city of Chicago. So I'm not exactly surprised. Um, but that's actually helpful to know. I really did not think that it would be 3 days to get from Arizona to Dallas, Texas. Um, that's interesting. I wonder why that's yeah. I can't wrap my head around that for some reason. It just wouldn't seem like that's the case, but totally believe you, Roman. All right. So Trimble's revenue is up 30% year over year. They don't expect that revenue to maintain next year due to challenges in the transportation sector. But honestly, with how things have been going, they can go. It's basically almost impossible to predict how things actually are going to go in the economy, especially with the elections coming up in November, potential switch of governance. Who knows how things are actually going to be? So. Um, I mean, I think at this point you'd be if you want to predict what the economy might be like next, or have a sense of what the economy might be like next year. You're basically at this point like kind of going to be betting on what the election outcome is going to be. I think it's maybe just like one way to look at it. This is not like investment advice or anything like this, so um, please don't take it for such. Um, don't really need to end up in court. What else? Okay, I think. Oh, this was a pretty interesting story too. So Shipwell and Cloud Trucks made a deal this week, and Shipwell is a transportation management system, but they were previously running a brokerage at exactly this time. So what some comments that I've generally heard about what that arrangement was that it was um, in a way kind of like a not exactly a conflict of interest, but that you shouldn't really be doing both of those two things at the same time. There was a reason for it. Is so basically kind of like you're you're kind of competing with your own customers in a way. Like people who are using your TMS, you kind of are sitting on that data of what exactly they're moving, who they're moving for, and then you can really go after their customers. And I know there's another company that does this as well. Um, I think it's LoadSmart. Don't quote me on that. But that's kind of just that kind of arrangement doesn't make sense. So anyway, Shipwell finally sold that brokerage division off to Cloud Trucks. Cloud Trucks, for those of you that don't know, they basically are trying to mimic somewhat of like a Landstar model, where they're extremely asset light, where they basically don't have any assets. Um, and there were comments that I've heard that they were trying to basically like eliminate the dispatcher, so everything, at least within their fleet or their kind of platform that they structure kind of like as a carrier. You sign up for Cloud Trucks, you can be a driver. I haven't personally heard any bad things, haven't heard good things. I haven't really heard much about what the experience like is working for Cloud Trucks, but um, nonetheless, I do know that they offer like a bunch of different services for all their different drivers. They kind of standard, I guess, things, but it's all through an app. You can get insurance, you can get the fuel discounts, you can get a bunch of different things. So anyway, CloudTrucks bought this brokerage, which I think, in my opinion, I'm not sure if I have too much of an opinion about it yet, but it's at least more fitting for CloudTrucks to be owning a brokerage than it is for a TM company to be owning a brokerage. So given that CloudTrucks was already basically it had an MC, um, this is going to be an extension to their business. So yeah, the CloudTrucks CEO and co-founder, I heard he's a pretty good guy as well. They've raised a lot of money, over $100 million in investments, and they were valued at over 850 million. I'm not too sure about these companies that pose as tech companies and raise tech valuations, but are really ultimately just tech-enabled service businesses. It's There's a couple of different ways you can look at it, um, but ultimately, I would say that it it might be hard to justify that valuation, like, in the long run, or I wouldn't say justify that valuation, but grow into that valuation. Because generally, when you raise money, you're more or less kind of raising money at, like, a future perceived value, and then you kind of have to live up to it, and if you don't live up to it, then you'll have a difficult time raising your next round. Um, but they do have a decent amount of scale. They've facilitated almost $100 million in payments to U.S. truck drivers. And like I said, I've never heard bad things about it. It seems like they pay on time. I don't know if they have quick pay options or anything like that, but if anybody who may be listening to this um, happen to work with Cloud Trucks or have an experience with them, feel free to make a comment, and would love to hear. What else was here? Mm. So Arrive Logistics put out a 2024 like truckload freight rate forecast, um, and it seems like that their forecast is that the spot market um, is expected to rise slightly, and with a reset happening in like amid seasonal swings, um, the magic moment when contract rates hit their low point could be around Q2 or Q3. And I don't know. I think that things will only really get better. At least it's just my personal opinion, but I don't think that I think that the expectation should be that at least up until Q4 of 2024, things will be things will still be kind of similar to how they are right now. Maybe more flatlining up until that point, but I think we're not out of the hole just yet. That's just like my personal gut feeling. It's not based on any data or anything like that, um, but yeah. So reefer rates um, are looking at a 12% year-over-year growth by Q4. These are all just obviously projections, it seems like, but that's kind of like what the point of um, this article was it was just simply highlighting what Arrive Logistics is forecasting now. Take that for what you want, probably with a grain of salt. Any forecast at this point, honestly, is should be taken pretty lightly. So, all right, this one was we had we had a fan message us, um, Freight Caviar follower message us about alleging kind of like a scam freight broker, kind of scam artist, and um, we we wrote a little bit on this. We put out a disclaimer that this is this is really just this is an allegation. This strictly fact like this is strictly what we have heard and also um, what we have read on the internet, mainly Reddit, like different people posting about exactly the same story and same situation, um, but without calling out the guys in particular. Basically, what he would do, he just seemed like a sales guy for freight brokerages, and then he would basically claim to offer like top pharma clients, and a bunch of lucrative contracts. Um, Alongside requests for stipends and allowances. I don't really I don't really know what, like, a stipend per se is, if that's, like it's different from a sign-on bonus because the sign-on bonus, I believe, was, um, like, $15,000, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Let me just confirm that. Anyway, $600 of a weekly stipend and $500 of a monthly car allowance. Personally, I've never heard of a monthly car allowance before. It's like just like you get paid, and then out of whatever your employer pays you, you figure out like what your um, you figure out what your I don't know payments are going to be for your personal things. But I guess if there's like a company car or something like that, okay, fine, sure. But anyway, he would do this, and then um, promises reportedly dissolved. Um, Promises reportedly dissolve into a straight commission scenario after 60 days, or sooner, depending on revenue. Yet supposedly promises of clients never came to fruition, and brokerages like the guy, the brokerages fire that guy when they finally catch on. So there's a Reddit thread from the past year echoing these warnings, labeling him as a with a potential scam. It's not certain, but we we did want to make people aware of this. There was actually even I'll pull up the Reddit thread in a second. Efforts to cleanse his name date back to 2014 with legal filings against Scambook LLC for defamation. Um, he described he described as a seasoned Staten Island executive in the shipping industry, claims such reports cause job loss and public humiliation. Um, well, I mean, yeah, that could probably happen. But if multiple people are actually reporting on the same thing, um, it's tough to say. Um, it's tough to say, but nonetheless, here are some of the. Well, he was posting basically about himself making a digital defense. Um, the article claims he's also an outstanding basketball player. Um, yeah, a lot of self indulgence here. Um, but let's open this Reddit thread. I don't think I. Greetings, beautiful people. Probably a stupid question to be asking, but has a guy named as such ever reached out to put anyone of you promising to get ever reached out put to any one of you promising to get you top farmer clients for the company in exchange for advancing compensation? LOL, I'm going to DM you. Um, let's see. Pass real 2395 compensation. This is kind of I got this from. Somebody said, "Wow, he's contacting us right now with the same pitch as this guy's scammer." Doesn't exactly seem like a. I mean, granted, none of these people. These are all like pseudonyms too, so like anybody really can write this stuff. Um, but somebody did say we have worked with this gentleman and have been with him in meetings with two pharma co's, moved much business through us without problems. Um, we also know that two freight brokers tried to him with end turn him end turn him with clients and then tried to cover it up. Do not always believe what you read. Um, yeah, it can go the same way as well. So it could have been real, could have been not, but it seems like for the most part, based on the source um, that DM'd us, um, we thought it was a worthy like enough to actually write a story on it. So um, all right, what else is there? Yeah, so just to be super clear, this issue, just what our take, what we wrote our take was here. The issue was brought to our attention by a trusted follower, whose brokerage was recently contacted by him, almost slipped past their sales director. This is all the disclaimers. Like these are just the accounts of his business dealings, are, and they're all just simply allegations gathered from public sources and claims made by individuals. We're here to just simply provide a platform for awareness and discussion with our community. Um, we don't accuse them of being, guilty. We're not the judge, ultimately, but just keep an eye out for people like that. So, and make sure most importantly, like when you start to work with somebody, that there's like clear expectations and clear more actually more importantly is if something doesn't work out by and ideally like by a certain date, um, especially like if it's kind of like on a commission basis, for example, like if you don't reach a certain amount of sales, like what is our exit plan, exit strategy? Because ultimately at the end of the day, um, relationships, like most relationships don't work out, um, and it's hard to find the right person at the end of the day. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be like, you know, pissed at them. That doesn't exactly have to mean that you berate them forever. Um, but exiting a relationship is probably as important as it is getting into one, or how you exit a relationship is almost as important as how you get into one. Just mainly because you never really know who you're gonna cross paths with down the road. So it's just better practice to do that. And plus, like, if you got the judgment wrong about the person, um, whether if it came down to like a judgment call, then they're gonna go around spreading the word to like people that they know. Maybe somebody else who is good wants to apply to your company later on. Here's like a bad thing about you, how you dealt with it. It's kind of it's just an unnecessary blemish. So, um, well, this doesn't the amount of credit that all of us Americans are adding to the overall debt, credit card debt, is just not stopping, or does not there's no stop in sight whatsoever. So we're now at $1.13 trillion of credit card debt. It is an all-time high in consumer borrowing. I don't know how much longer this is going to last for. And really, it is worrying because you can't just keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. At some point, it's to end. And, if we didn't learn a lesson from like 2007, which I wasn't that old at the time, but you cannot keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing because eventually it's going to catch up to you. Um, and the banks or credit card companies who are lending this money, um, I don't entirely understand why they're doing so right now, but you know, these just be careful with how much you're spending, because just an American way of life seems like to be just getting more and more good. And like if you do it responsibly, you can definitely it's a really good lever to pull to getting ahead in life or getting ahead in business. But you do it irresponsibly if it's for like things that are not necessities or whatever. Maybe let's take a look. Maybe there's more information that says like what this was. Federal Reserve Bank of New York household credit debt. Yeah, there's not much more information about it, but not great, honestly. So like just from this loan, if since like 2018, um, this is, I mean, we're getting close to almost twice as much credit card debt um, as in 2018. That's absolutely wild to me. I wonder how much credit card debt there was. Let's see, ask Perplexity. I don't know if you guys have ever used Perplexity, but how much American credit card debt was there, or credit? Yeah, I'll just do credit card debt was there in 2007. Because I use, if I'm using trying to like find a direct answer with sources, I don't really actually use Google anymore. I use Perplexity. It's really awesome. It actually provides you a bunch of different sources. But let's see here. So in 2007, total American credit card debt was not explicitly mentioned in the search results. However, it is known that the U.S. consumer total credit card debt exceeded 1 trillion for the first time in 2018. Additionally, in 2009, total U.S. revolving debt, 98% of which is made up of credit card debt, was $852 billion. Uh, yeah, so the rate at which credit card debt is it's definitely accelerating at a much faster rate than it was ever before, previously. Um, that's I guess in terms of like from the freight market perspective, that's okay. That's probably going to be um, a good thing if you look at it from. Well, it's not entirely clear if that credit card spending is on physical or digital products. Let's see, maybe ask for the credit card debt. What were Americans spending most of their money on in 2023? And that's health and wellness is surprising. Dining out, fast food delivery. All right, so that might contribute. Online shopping, still hard to know. Here, strong wage growth gave Americans top ways Americans manage their money. Let's see what they say here. The only reason I'm going over this is because this kind of like directly contributes to what the freight market might be like going forward. If the credit card, so at least it's an indicator that people are spending money. But what I'm more interested in is like how sustainable this is going to be. And when people think and talk about a rebound of the market, um, if all this kind of comes crashing down, which it may, um, we might actually be the freight market actually might be worse than it has been over the last 2 years. Because if people start defaulting, having to file like even more bankruptcies, uh, personal bankruptcies are being filed. Actually, that's a pretty interesting. Let's see. Let's try to check. It's a new thread. Um, how many personal bankruptcies have been filed in the U.S. in the last year? How about is the trend for the last, let's say, 4 years? Okay, let's read this first. Annual non-business bankruptcy filings totaled 433,000 in the year ending September 2023, compared to 383,000 cases in the previous year. Yeah, and then in 200 in 2023. Okay, so okay, this is actually pretty interesting. So this is a testament to the fact that there's definitely, I mean, it would make sense if the more credit spending there is, the more likelihood that there can be bankruptcies. But most recently, so last year, in September 2023, there was about 433,000 personal bankruptcy, non-business bankruptcies filed. The year before that, it was about 383,000, and a year before that, it was about 370,000. Uh, yeah, so they're definitely rising. Um, oh, this is pretty wild. Okay, so personal bankruptcies were huge, like during COVID, I guess. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess there was this period where people were getting laid off, um, like crazy, and even the amount of like the two times that we got those stimulus checks issued, it just probably wouldn't be enough for um, I know probably for a lot of people, it just wasn't enough to actually sustain them. So that makes sense. 2021, they came down slightly. 2022, they reached a kind of a local minima, and then 2023, we're now back on the rise. So I actually don't know what on earth was it saying here that. Okay, anyway, um, personal bankruptcies are back on the rise. Long story short, so not the best indicator. All right, what else do we have? We got like 9 minutes here left. So, um, Transflow, I thought this was pretty cool. Transflow celebrated about exceeding $100 million in annual revenue, um, joining the elite 1% of tech companies to hit this mark. So, congrats, Transflow. Um, nice job. This is pretty cool, gotta say. Um, a logistics software leader, if you don't know them. Actually, I think this was my first when I got Kenworth, 2012 Kenworth T700 in 2016. This was the first ELD that I picked up as well. Just I think like at a truck stop. Don't ask me how I got to that truck stop without the log, but um, had to get one eventually. So not eventually, but just like immediately. I don't think if even if they pulled me over, it would have been fine. But okay, I'll finish this with the with the story we posted today. Um, okay, so in the Lost Freight Discord, uh, there was there was a group of guys they're all friends and they met through the Discord, but basically they found this double broker and they figured out this broker who was posing as a trucking company um, was a double broker, and so basically you have a legit broker on one side, and the guy's name is let's see here, uh, Swiss Army Knife Mike. Shout out Swiss Army Knife Mike. So he's like the legit broker, and then you have that Bannon guy who is his friend. He is the counterpart. Then they're kind of collaborating together, where that Bannon guy created basically like a fake email posing as a real carrier. And so when when the load was offered from the legit broker from Swiss Army Knife Mike, the double broker started working between the two parties, not knowing that they were actually uh, completely aware of the fact that they were kind of running reverse, double crossing the double broker. This story was kind of it was pretty difficult, honestly, to get. to get out the door because it was a little bit confusing. As we'd read it, it was just hard for us to make sure that like it was pretty clear what exactly was taking place with bike. But long story short, this was all entirely about a giant truckload shipment of I believe 3.2 million ping pong balls, which is uh, which which I'll get into why that's funny in a second. But it's he made it pretty. It makes it seem like pretty legit. So obviously, this is not like a real load, but they knew that this double broker was a double broker. So the commodity is an acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, ABS plastic ping pong balls, and it's not hazmat. It's entirely framed. Like this is like a legit, a legit load. So the double broker immediately jumped at the freight, no questions asked. He quoted the rate for 3,500, to which the real broker asks whether or not the to which the real broker asks what currency is this is this going to be paid in, um, or sorry, in what currency the rate is in. Okay, so that was like the double broker didn't realize that that's just a weird question to ask. What currency the quote is in. Enter fake carrier to screw around with the double broker. So now enter Johnny Hamchek, which is um, the basically the carrier who created a fake email. It's literally an at Gmail, which I don't understand how. Well, actually, now that I think about it, maybe the double broker only responded to an at Gmail from a carrier because the double broker really wouldn't care if their intention is to scam the carrier ultimately, then they don't really care whether or not the carrier is legit. I mean, not that they would like actually even think twice about whether they are legit or not. But if you're a real broker, if I was a real broker, like I would be checking at the very least, like, okay, is this a legitimate trucking company that I'm going to be working with? And legitimate companies do not operate from at Gmail, and maybe many do, but honestly, like if you don't have a company registered, business registered email, like that's already kind of just a red flag to start with. But anyway, um, a real friend of the a friend of the real broker who had time. He was using a second email address, and he accepted a bogus ping pong ball load from the double broker, who gave him a rate of 4,200. So this definitely would have. I think this would have led to a scam, essentially, ultimately, because like the original broker, the real one, the legit one, offered 3,500, and then the double broker goes back to the carrier and offers a rate of 4,200. So literally, the double broker would have been losing money. There's no way that this would have gotten paid out. Um, and Johnny Hamchek, our fake carrier, so the rate is fine. What is the commodity and how many pieces? Driver count. Uh, driver can't count too high. He's a little bit limited on the mathematical side of things. How many nets do you need? I think the driver has 8 to 10 with him. So the Johnny Hamchek is one of the members in the Discord. He's the one who met with Swiss Army Knife Mike, and they're working together, completely like keeping each other informed of what's going on. So both parties are messaging this double broker, but from obviously different sides of the table. And getting the number of ping pong balls is important because the customer will charge a fee of 5 cents per piece for an improper count. Uh, so nonetheless, the real broker basically, or sorry, the double broker asks, okay, can you please confirm how many pieces driver has to count, and the real broker like goes into some pretty detailed descriptions here. 3.2 million to 3.4 million pieces individually floor loaded on the trailer. Can you confirm with the shipper if the trailer has a translucent or, or solid roof? The product does not like too much sun too much. It would damage if it was exposed to light too long. If the trailer has a translucent roof, driver would be responsible to keep the trailer under shade until it is dark before continuing trip to the delivery location. Should have a reply back from the client shortly, meaning the shipper. Um, so obviously this is fake, but he's writing this so kind of like he's as dramatically as he can. And the next email honestly was my favorite, um, from the legit broker to the fake one. So legit broker goes, client is asking for the carrier to confirm the following as well. To preserve the integrity of the freight, the driver would need to take a longer route that avoids many excessive elevation changes. Client proposes that driver takes the following route to avoid high elevations and not damage the freight, meaning not to crush the ping pong balls like from pressure. I'm sure that the double broker probably didn't even like think twice, but um, long story short, that the double broker confirms yes, the roof is solid made of deer hide, specifically for instances like this. However, that is quite a lot of balls, my man. Driver needs to count them all. Um, Shipper, and then the legit broker responds, shipper will supply the driver with a pencil and notepad to keep track of the loading process. Usually the drivers that pick up this shipper get creative when it comes to loading. They use arms, legs, and even their mouth. Whatever makes it work and get loaded up as quickly as possible. Usually takes 6 to 8 hours from the moment the dock is assigned to the seal is affixed to the trailer. Client would be compensated for the time. How much would the carrier charge per hour for loading and unloading time? Um, the requests just keep getting stranger and stranger, and like our friend Swiss Army Knife Mike from Discord just can't believe that this guy is like, continuing to go along with it. And he's just not picking up. Um, but real double brokers like all right, whatever, man. Let's count all 3.24 million ping pong balls. Honestly, what a champ. The driver will charge $70. So the double broker says the driver will start charge $70 per hour to count the balls. And real broker goes, sorry for the back and forth. Client has provided more information about the delivery. Please see below. The items have NFC near field communication chips in them, and at the delivery they would need to be scanned. They are unloaded into the storage bins. We will provide a phone number for the IT support just in case the scanner stops working. Happens a lot, unfortunately. Oh, poor double broker. However, the IT support for the scanner operates on a per minute basis of $2.50 a minute. Please ensure the carrier agrees and understands that driver will need to provide credit card and billing information to IT support, but no worries. We will make sure it is reimbursed immediately on the revised rate sheet. But there's one final request. This one is where the double broker we finally caught on. So, will you provide the credit card driver? Sorry. So the legit broker goes to the double broker. Oh no, the double broker, I believe, responds and goes, will you provide the credit card? Driver has an addiction to cocaine, Asian massage parlors, and lot lizards, so his wife does not allow him to carry cash or credit cards. Honestly, this entire thing was brilliant. If anybody has stories that are in any way, shape, or form similar to this, them our way. Just please give us a couple of days to like look it over, and we'll try to report on it. But like this one, I think this one was like one of the best ones that I've seen personally so far. So shout out Swiss Army Knife, 10-4 Rubber Ducky, who I couldn't figure out exactly like how entirely he was involved in this, but he was like in the channel in the thread for Discord. But he's been a long time follower of Freight Caviar. So shout out 10-4 Rubber Ducky, that Bannon guy, and then Swiss Army Knife, Mike again. All right, guys, that's it for today. So next week, I believe we got on the 23rd, we got Bill Dreigert from Uber Freight joining us. Sorry, formerly Uber Freight, now Flexport. So make sure to tune in for that, and then we will see you next week. Take care.